Audio Jungle.
Soldiers of the Ukrainian armed forces eliminated almost 1,300 invaders and more than 100 unmanned aerial vehicles per day. During the last day from October 11 to 12, the Russians lost 1290 invaders, 59 artillery systems and 115 units of automobile equipment at the front. This is reported by the General Staff of the Armed Forces. The total combat losses of the enemy from 24. February 22 to 12. October 24 approximately amounted to personnel, about 667,630 plus 1,290 persons were eliminated. Tanks 8,962 plus 9 units. Armored combat vehicles 17,827 plus 27 units. Artillery systems 19,381 plus 59 units. RSZV 1230 plus 1 units. Air defense equipment 976 units. Aircraft 369 units. Helicopters 329 units. UAVs of the operational tactical level 16,947 plus 110 units. Cruise missiles 2,619 units. Ships, boats 28 units. Submarines 1 unit. Automotive equipment and tank trucks 26,513 plus 115 units. Of special equipment 3,434 plus 38 units. We will remind that during the past day, October 10, the armed forces of Ukraine eliminated 1,140 Russian invaders and shot down one enemy helicopter. In Russia, on the night of October 10, a fuel warehouse was destroyed at the military airfield, Kanska, near Mykop in Adygea. In September, the Russian army in the war with Ukraine lost an average of 1,271 people killed or seriously wounded every day. So, the first month of autumn 2024 became the deadliest for the Russian army. Earlier, on October 9, the defense forces of Ukraine successfully hit the Shahed UAV storage base near Oktyabrski settlement in the Krasnodar region of the Russian Federation. In occupied Rovenki, an oil depot caught fire again after an air attack. On the night of October 12, a fire broke out at an oil depot in the temporarily occupied Rovenki of Luhansk region. Before the fire emergency in the region, the air defense systems of the Russian invaders were working due to the air attack. This is reported by local telegram channels and mass media. The network wrote about explosions in the area of the city of Rovenka, which were heard that night. Meanwhile, pro-Kremlin publications wrote that the air attack was allegedly repulsed by the air defense of the Russian invaders. It is not specified exactly what targets the occupiers allegedly shot down. At the same time, footage of a burning local oil depot appeared on the internet. In addition, photos from a satellite of this oil facility in Rovenki were published on the network, on which there was allegedly another arrival and a fire. It is worth noting that this is not the first time Russian invaders have struck an oil facility in occupied Rivne. On the night of October 7, a large-scale fire broke out at an oil depot in the Feodosia region of the temporarily occupied Crimea. This was preceded by a drone attack. As a result of the attack of the armed forces on the oil depot in Feodosia, 2 fuel tanks there were destroyed, 2 more caught fire. On the evening of October 7, explosions rang out in the temporarily occupied Feodosia for the second time in a day, and a fire started. The General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine confirmed the attack on a marine oil terminal in the temporarily occupied Crimea. In Ukraine, several thousand soldiers from the DPRK are fighting on the side of the Russians. North Korean soldiers are fighting in Ukraine. Part of the military is undergoing training in Russia for a possible future deployment together with the Russian military. This is reported by the Institute for the Study of War (ISW). As the Washington Post notes, Ukrainian and South Korean officials confirm that North Korean troops are operating in Ukraine along with Russian troops. A representative of Ukrainian military intelligence said that individual North Korean officers are observing Russian troops and studying the battlefield in the Russian-occupied territories of Ukraine. Instead, the defense forces have not yet independently recorded North Korean units on the territory of Ukraine. The Ukrainian official also added that several thousand North Korean infantrymen are being trained in Russia. According to him, the Russian military command can transfer them to the front line in Ukraine by the end of 2024 or to the border regions of Russia in order to free up Russian reserves to participate in hostilities on the territory of Ukraine. South Korean and Ukrainian officials have reported that the North Korean military is believed to be operating in the occupied Donetsk region. This is confirmed by the recent missile strike by the armed forces of Ukraine, which killed a number of North Korean officers. ISW analysts have not been able to estimate the extent of the North Korean troop grouping that Russia might throw into the front line or that might unleash Russian forces along the border. However, these scenarios may also contribute to Russian efforts to bring additional forces to priority offensive operations in Ukraine, as well as delaying the final phase of Russia's summer 2024 offensive operation. The deployment of North Korean troops in Ukraine may also create opportunities for their use in Ukraine, depending on the quality, structure, deployment and interoperability, the report says. We previously wrote that the North Korean army said it was blocking all communication routes with South Korea and would fortify areas on its side of the border. We will also remind you that the Democratic People's Republic of Korea (DPRK) can send its military to Ukraine to support the Russian Federation (RF). The possibility of such a development of the scenario is very likely. Russian drones attacked the Mykolaiv Oblast, several fires broke out. Russian troops attacked Mykolaiv region with drones on the night of October 12. Fires broke out as a result of the shelling. This was reported by the head of Mykolaiv OVA Vitaly Kim in Telegram. As Kim noted, 3, shocked, were destroyed that night in the Mykolaiv region. The occupiers attacked the Sniguriv community with attack drones. As a result of the drone being hit, a fire broke out on the territory of the farm. In addition, due to the fall of the debris of the downed drone, the dry grass in the open area outside the settlement was ignited. The fire was extinguished promptly. There are no casualties, said the head of the OVA. The Russian Federation lost 1,290 soldiers last day. The armed forces also destroyed 9 tanks, 27 armored combat vehicles, 59 artillery systems, 1 anti-aircraft missile system, 110 operational tactical UAVs, 115 vehicles and 38 units of special equipment. We will remind that in the past day, on October 10, the armed forces of Ukraine eliminated 1,140 Russian invaders and shot down 1 enemy helicopter. In Russia, on the night of October 10, a fuel warehouse was destroyed at the military airfield, Kanska, near Mykop in Adygea. In September, the Russian army in the war with Ukraine lost an average of 1,271 people killed or seriously wounded every day. So, the first month of autumn 2024 became the deadliest for the Russian army. Earlier, on October 9, the Defense Forces of Ukraine successfully hit the Shahed UAV storage base near Oktябrьsky settlement in the Krasnodar region of the Russian Federation. The occupiers became more active in the Kupiansk direction, the General Staff commented on the situation on the fronts. On October 11, 169 combat clashes were recorded at the front. The Russian Federation became more active in the Kupian direction. This is reported by the General Staff of the Armed Forces. The enemy became more active in the Kupiansk direction. 23 attacks by invaders took place during the day, the military wrote. The defense forces repelled assaults near Petropavlivka, Stepava Novoselivka, Koliznikivka, Lozova, Kucherivka, Sinkivka, Kruglyakivka, Novosinovo, Vaishnovo, and Pishani. The largest number of attacks was repulsed by the defense forces in the Kharkiv direction. A total of 32 enemy attacks were stopped. The occupiers most actively tried to advance in the areas of Kostyantinivka, Katerinivka and Vadian settlements, the report says. In addition, the enemy attacked in the areas of Novoselidivka, Maximilianivka, Izmailivka, Hernik, Zoryani, Kurakovo, Zelany Drugo, Sukurini, Kurakivka, and Antonivka. In the Kharkiv direction, the enemy once unsuccessfully tried to storm near the settlement of Taish. The enemy attacked 21 times in the Lyman direction. He tried to wedge himself into the defenses near Grakivka, Novomikhailivka, Turniv, Zarikny, Makivka, Novosadovoy, Nevsky, Bilogorivka, and Katerinivka. The enemy did not carry out offensive actions in the Seversk direction. In the Kramatorsk direction, the occupiers unsuccessfully attacked 8 times in the areas of Kalinivka, Chasevoy Yar, Ivanovsky and Stupochki. In the Teresk direction, the enemy launched 15 attacks near Nelipivka, Teresk, and Sherbanivka. Most of them were repulsed by the armed forces in the Teresk area. In the Pokrovsky direction, Ukrainian soldiers stopped 20 assault and offensive actions of the aggressor towards the settlements of Kruty Yar, Myrolubivka, Myrnograd, Lysivka, Selidov. The greatest concentration of enemy attacks was near Selidovoy and Lysivka. In the Vremysk direction, the enemy intensified the pressure and carried out 15 assaults on positions in the areas of Bogoyavlenka, Zolotaniva, Rivnopil, Novokrainsk, Novodorivka, Lavadna and Olgivsky settlements. The enemy actively used bombing and attack aircraft for strikes in the direction. The Russian invaders did not carry out assaults in the Gulyapol and Orikhiv directions. The operation is ongoing in the Kursk region. The enemy's aviation continues to attack their villages and cities. Over the past 24 hours, Russian aircraft have carried out 18 airstrikes by 23 anti-aircraft missiles on their own territory. No signs of the formation of enemy offensive groups were detected in the Volyn and Polisk directions. On the border with the Chernihiv and Sumy regions, the enemy from the territory of the Russian Federation is actively using artillery and aviation in the areas of Ukrainian settlements. The Russian Federation lost 1,290 soldiers last day. The armed forces also destroyed 9 tanks, 27 armored combat vehicles, 59 artillery systems, 1 anti-aircraft missile system, 110 operational tactical UAVs, 115 vehicles and 38 units of special equipment. We will remind that during the past day, October 10, the armed forces of Ukraine eliminated 1,140 Russian invaders and shot down 1 enemy helicopter. In Russia, on the night of October 10, a fuel warehouse was destroyed at the military airfield, Kanska, near Mykop in Adygea. In September, the Russian army in the war with Ukraine lost an average of 1,271 people killed or seriously wounded every day. So, the first month of autumn 2024 became the deadliest for the Russian army. Earlier, on October 9, the defense forces of Ukraine successfully hit. The occupiers attacked one of Kherson's micro-districts. A large-scale fire broke out. Russian troops attacked Kherson. There was a large-scale fire in the warehouse. Alexander Prokudin, the head of the Kherson Regional Military Administration, announced this. Yesterday afternoon, occupation forces attacked the central district of Kherson. Warehouses were hit, he said. A fire broke out at the place of arrival. Due to constant repeated attacks, the rescuers had to retreat to a safe place several times and return to extinguishing the fire. Now the fire has been completely extinguished, said the head of the OVA. There was no information about the victims among the townspeople. Russian troops attacked Mykolaiv region with drones on the night of October 12. Fires broke out as a result of the shelling. The Russian Federation lost 1,290 soldiers last day. The armed forces also destroyed 9 tanks, 27 armored combat vehicles, 59 artillery systems, 1 anti-aircraft missile system, 110 operational tactical UAVs, 115 vehicles and 38 units of special equipment. The General Staff confirmed the attack on the Russian oil depot in the Luhansk region. Defense forces of Ukraine attacked an oil depot in the area of the city of Rovenka, Luhansk region. Fuel supplied to the Russian army was stored there. This is reported by the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. Tonight, an attack was made on a warehouse of fuel and lubricants in the area of the city of Rovenka in the temporarily occupied territory of the Luhansk region. Oil and oil products were stored at this base, which were supplied, in particular, for the needs of the Russian army, the report says. A fire is recorded on the territory of the oil depot. The General Staff of the Armed Forces noted that this oil base had previously been attacked by Ukrainian weapons. The operation was carried out by the Main Directorate of Intelligence of the Ministry of Defense in cooperation with other components of the defense forces. On the night of October 12, the network reported a fire in the area of the occupied city of Rovenka, Luhansk region. The city was occupied by the Russians back in 2014. On the night of October 7, a large-scale fire broke out at an oil depot in the Feodosia region of the temporarily occupied Crimea. This was preceded by a drone attack. As a result of the attack of the armed forces on the oil depot in Feodosia, 2 fuel tanks there were destroyed, 2 more caught fire. On the evening of October 7, explosions rang out in the temporarily occupied Feodosia for the second time in a day, and a fire started. The General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine confirmed the attack on a marine oil terminal in the temporarily occupied Crimea. The occupiers hit Ukraine with unknown missiles and drones. How many did the air defense shoot down? On the night of October 12, Russia attacked Ukraine with unknown missiles and attack drones. Most of the Shaheds were destroyed. This is reported by the Air Force of the Armed Forces of Ukraine in Telegram. That night, the enemy launched rockets of an unknown type from the Belgorod region, as well as 28 kamikaze drones. Launching area, Kursk, Primorsko-Akhtarsk. The attack was repulsed by anti-aircraft missile forces, units of electronic defense systems and mobile fire groups of the Air Force and the Defense Forces of Ukraine. Air Defense Forces destroyed 24 enemy drones. PPO worked in Sumy, Poltava, Dnipropetrovsk, Mykolaiv, and Kherson regions. Also, 2 more drones were lost in location as a result of active countermeasures by EU. Russian troops attacked Mykolaiv region with drones on the night of October 12. Fires broke out as a result of the shelling. The Russian Federation lost 1,290 soldiers last day. The armed forces also destroyed 9 tanks, 27 armored combat vehicles, 59 artillery systems, 1 anti-aircraft missile system, 110 operational tactical UAVs, 115 vehicles and 38 units of special equipment. Russian troops attacked Kherson. There was a large-scale fire in the warehouse. The partisans showed what the occupiers were hiding in the Institute of Nuclear Energy of the Russian Federation in Crimea. Guerrillas scouted the Institute of Nuclear Energy of the Russian Federation in Crimea. It was possible to discover a nuclear reactor there, albeit an educational one. This was reported by the Telegram channel of the ATESH partisan movement. The agent discovered that the institute is actively involved in the defense industry. Next to it is an educational nuclear reactor, where students practice practical skills, the message says. After the training, as the partisans specify, specialists closely cooperate with the Ministry of Defense of the Russian Federation and are involved in military exercises on nuclear security. Exploration of such objects not only reveals the structure of the nuclear industry, but also provides an understanding of the operation of reactors and other nuclear objects, which helps in the development of methods for their decommissioning, Atesh added. Earlier, in Mariupol, which was temporarily occupied by the Russian army, partisans set fire to a warehouse of collaborators, in which the occupiers kept their belongings. The partisans discovered the positions of the occupiers not far from Yevpatoria with a serious trench system. An entire company of the Russian armed forces is based there. In addition, partisans discovered a training camp of Russian occupiers in the village of Chornomorsk, temporarily occupied Crimea. As a result of the Russian attack on Kherson, a policeman was injured. In Kherson, the northern neighborhood came under artillery fire. This is reported by the State Department of Public Health in the Kherson region. The strikes caused a warehouse fire and damaged an administration building, an apartment building, storage facilities and 2 cars. A 31-year-old patrol police officer was injured and was diagnosed with a contusion and brain injury, but his life is not in danger. A 54-year-old man was injured with an explosive injury and a shrapnel wound in the leg as a result of a launch from an unmanned aerial vehicle in the center of Kherson. The occupiers shelled the Dnipro district, damaging a private house and a gas pipeline. Explosives were also thrown on the territory of the medical institution, which damaged the hospital building and a car, but the patients and staff were not injured. Source: Police of the Kherson region. In addition, the Russians attacked Antonivka with drones, as a result of which a 51-year-old man was wounded with explosive and craniocerebral injuries. A private house was also damaged. In Komysony, enemy artillery shelling damaged 5 private houses. A 63-year-old woman suffered a concussion and injuries. Kizimys was also hit by jet systems, a private house was damaged, and another one was damaged by drone attacks. Berislav, Dubchiny and Zimivka were fired at by drones of the FPV type. 2 houses were damaged. Artillery damaged 3 private houses in Stanislav, Bilozerka, and Chornobayevka, as well as an outbuilding in Tomarini. In Shlyakovo, the enemy fired at an economic building. Russian troops attacked Mykolaiv region with drones on the night of October 12. Fires broke out as a result of the shelling. The Russian Federation lost 1,290 soldiers last day. The armed forces also destroyed 9 tanks, 27 armored combat vehicles, 59 artillery systems, 1 anti-aircraft missile system, 110 operational tactical UAVs, 115 vehicles and 38 units of special equipment. Russian troops attacked Kherson. There was a large-scale fire in the warehouse. The armed forces explained how Dragon drones are changing the battlefield in Ukraine. The Ukrainian military is making more and more changes to drones to improve their effectiveness, and the Dragon drones have become another vivid example of such improvisation and adaptation. According to the New York Times, soldiers attach canisters to the drones that spew thermite, a molten metal, a mixture of aluminum and iron oxide that burns at a temperature of 4,400 degrees Fahrenheit, about 2,400 degrees Celsius. When it catches fire, it creates a self-sustaining reaction that makes it almost impossible to extinguish. As Vyacheslav, the commander of the Shock Unmanned Company of the 68th Separate Hunting Brigade, Shershny Dovbush, told the publication, this helps the armed forces of Ukraine to smoke out Russian soldiers from forest areas. The flame ignites the vegetation that Russian troops use as shelter, and burns it, exposing them and their equipment to direct attack. Vyacheslav says that since his unit arrived in the Pokrovsk region in April, it has already killed more than 3,000 Russian soldiers. Drones are another revolutionary step in the drone war that has changed the battlefield, writes the NYT. For their part, it didn't take long for the Russians to start producing their own Dragon drones. Russian TG channels published a video in which Russian troops use drones to spray Ukrainian soldiers with fire. According to the NYT, Dragon drones represent only a small part of the rapidly growing fleet of drones. They are engaged in an urgent arms race to innovate and mass-produce drones that fly faster and farther while becoming increasingly deadly. While both sides plan to field more and more drones, experienced pilots are becoming even more valuable and much harder to replace. Pilots, as specialists, they are worth their weight in gold, and it is extremely important to protect them, says Vyacheslav. Once detected, the enemy spares no resources to destroy the position. In September, the 3rd Assault Brigade showed how its fighters use these new deadly drones against Russian troops in the Kharkiv region. Later it became known that Russian troops also began to use Dragon drones in the combat zone in Ukraine. We will remind you that on the night of September 18, Ukrainian drones controlled by the Security Service of Ukraine, the State Security Service, and the SZH struck a large warehouse of the Missile and Artillery Department of the Ministry of Defense of the Russian Federation in Toropets, Tver region. A railway ferry with fuel caught fire in the Russian port of Kavkaz. It was hit by the ZSU and eventually sank. The number of people injured as a result of cab strikes in Zaporizhia increased. The number of injured in Zaporizhia after cab strikes increased to 4 people. Damage was recorded in 3 districts of the city at once. This was reported by the telegram of the head of Zaporizhia OVA Ivan Fedorov. The number of victims is 4 people. Everyone refused hospitalization, he said. According to the head of the OVA, Russian strikes on the city caused damage in the Shevchenkiv, Oleksandriv and Voznesenov districts of Zaporizhia. As of 12 p.m., 26 private and 3 apartment buildings were damaged, Fedorov said. On the night of October 12, Russian troops again attacked Zaporizhia. The occupiers struck the city 3 times, causing the destruction of residential buildings and industrial facilities. The invaders used anti-aircraft guns for strikes. Not only houses and infrastructure objects, but also the territory of the equestrian club came under attack. As a result of the attack, 3 victims were initially reported, including an 11-year-old girl. Currently, she received medical help and is already at home. Russian troops attacked Mykolaiv region with drones on the night of October 12. Fires broke out as a result of the shelling. In Kherson, the northern neighborhood came under artillery fire. The Russian Federation lost 1,290 soldiers last day. The armed forces also destroyed 9 tanks, 27 armored combat vehicles, 59 artillery systems, 1 anti-aircraft missile system, 110 operational tactical UAVs, 115 vehicles and 38 units of special equipment. Russian troops attacked Kherson. There was a large-scale fire in the warehouse.